Hey there, fellow settlement builders, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Bellwright, Episode 6, Stockpiling Resources. So the water collectors will collect water gradually over time, but mostly when it rains. And is a prerequisite for wells, but is inferior to wells. I'd rather have a well, but, you know, I don't. Well, actually, what would it cost to get a well? Wells are tier 2, so yeah, it's going to be a while. So I'll stick for water collectors for now. The game warns you that when you tech up to tier 2, the bandits will become more difficult, and while technically true, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, the people that attack your settlements are not well equipped, generally speaking. So, while the warning is true that you'll be attacked by a larger quantity, it's kind of an idle threat, because it will be like one or two more naked bandits attacking you. It's like, okay, well, that's still easy to deal with. Whereas the brigands that attack settlements that you're trying to liberate, yeah, they ain't no joke. They're tough customers. You get like 10 brigands. Oh man, they're pretty well equipped and pretty dangerous, generally speaking. I mean, you know, they're not impossible to kill, but like you should be ready for it. So it looks like you guys want me to automate logging and foraging. So I'm gonna get, I'm gonna have Lubomir start researching the forester camp, the logging camp rather, and I'll set up a forager. So current priority right now is to set up foraging and logging. I'm not gonna worry about mining camp because I don't need to do automated mining just yet. So logging camp will be first. So the research for that is just some wood and a log, and I have all the materials already. Also, Lubomir, why aren't you using your brain, dude? He's like stuck. There he goes. And then I'm going to set up a forager right where I am. Right here. There's enough flax and garlic and sage around that I really don't need to put it somewhere far flung. It does require a lot of resources, as you can see, like a lot of initial resources. But right here is fine. So for me to build that, I am going to need to repair my simple axe. And I don't think I have the resources for that at the moment. Oops. Huh. So this was logs, flax, and wood. I'll start collecting the flax. So it was, what, 11 flax? Yeah. And Logging Camp just got researched as well. So that unlocks the ability to lumberjack, which is to cut logs into wood, which is pretty useful, especially after you liberate Padstow, for reasons I'll explain later, and the logging camp, which can automate your followers to cut down trees. So taking a look at the map, I've placed my initial setup like right around a bunch of woods, so it's really, I can just put this anywhere. I can put this right here. So that's 10 flax for that and 11 flax for the other one, so I need 21 flax to build both. Lubomir. Let's have you construct at 1. Also, my raid threat is increased 50%, so yeah, I'm kind of on the bandits' radar, and they're going to want to mess with me. As my population and wealth grow, how attractive I am as a raid target grows. Is this special enough to check out? If you like Medieval Dynasty, those kind of games, I've played that, I've played this. I really enjoy this game. It's not to say that it has a ton of replayability, and I don't know the development speed. There hasn't been... Right when it released, there were some issues which caused it to kind of get review bombed. But a lot of those issues, or not a lot, but like, yeah, actually, a lot of those issues have been resolved. I don't know, so most of what they've updated since release has been like hot fixes. I don't know when the next like meat of development will ripple out, but in its current state, I do think it's worth playing. More so than like even games like Mana Lords. I've played 3 times more hours of this than Mana Lords. I got bored of like Mana Lords way fast. I know they're not similar games, exactly, but Mana Lords got like whatever the opposite of review bombed is, and I like don't get it because there's almost no replayability in Mana Lords. I like played it once and then put it down and probably won't pick it up for like years because it just doesn't have a lot of content or replayability. And I got a good, I don't know, 60 hours out of this, and it could have been more had I not speedrun min-maxed for teaching myself the game. And, you know, and that's actually something I would highly suggest for new players is to, it might sound weird, but to play it slow and enjoy the story and not to, like, speedrun min-max it. Oh, that looked like it was in the head, but it wasn't. What do I really enjoy about Bellwright? I enjoy the villager management and combat aspects. Leading an army and building up the industry required to defend against raids and bandits and the like. I find it to be really fun and kind of novel. There's not a lot of games where you're outfitting an army like that. How would I compare it to This Is My Land? I haven't played This Is My Land in a long time. But it's somewhat similar in concept. What's Lubermere doing? You are delivering wood to the logging camp. Sounds reasonable. Does it get to a point where you don't have to do as much manual harvesting? Yes. In fact, you really don't have to do a lot of it at all if you don't want. Doing it manually speeds things up, but I could just as easily go into the villages, hire a bunch of villagers to do the harvesting for myself, and the only kind of manual stuff I have to do is to initially get villagers and the housing required for the villagers, and then they can do all the building themselves. Like, technically speaking, once I have the forager camp and logging camp up, I can have Lubomir do everything for me. It will just be slow. But you can have, like in my other save, I have something like 30 people working all the different tasks required to run a village. I don't have to do anything manually. If I put a new house to get built, they build the house. I literally don't lift a finger unless I want to. Because I already have all of the logging and all of the flax, or it's not flax at higher level, but all of the resource requirements. And in fact, it's designed so that you don't do that manually. It's ridiculous to do manually. Building tier 3 buildings by hand is obnoxiously, and I'm saying that like lovingly, but it's obnoxiously time consuming. To the point where like the player is not intended to build buildings on their own. You're encouraged not to do it by hand, but to allow your villagers to do it manually. Because a tier 5 house, I'm going to make numbers up just to put it into scope. A tier 5 house, let's say, requires 200 different interaction points where you like nail things to construct a building, like what he's doing now. It would require hundreds of that. So it would require the player, if you were to build a tier 5 house by yourself without villager help, it would take you like half an hour of like mindless hammering. So unless you love mindless hammering, like if you love the ending of Red Dead Redemption 2, cool. I didn't. I don't want to build houses manually. It's boring. I'm going to have them do it. Because that's smart. So you get to a point where you can provide the logs and the wood through villagers and provide the hammers needed to build with villagers and have the villagers build it all themselves. And it's way smarter and way faster and way less time consuming. And honestly, simply rewarding because you directly benefit from all of the labor of setting up the the resource production chains, if you will. There are some stags around that I would love to shoot in the head. I can hear them all grunting at me. You appreciate the insights? Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But, I bought this game myself. I am not sponsored. And being not sponsored, I will happily say, I found this game to be a lot of fun. Quite a lot of fun. Which is why I picked it for myself. My, generally speaking, my gaming community votes for the games I play for marathons. And for this month, they just said, pick whatever you want to play, you know, as the game for this month's marathon. And this is the game I picked because I enjoyed it. Because, oh, there is a dangerous boar right here. Because, generally speaking, I try to be very prepared for the games I play by learning them well before I stream them. And it's not fun to learn a game well that I don't enjoy. So, when given the option of picking the games I play, I typically pick games I think are fun, so that the process of learning them is fun. Makes sense, right? So you won't often find me playing games I think are bad. I don't, unless my community tells me to play them. There's been a few games that I affectionately grumbled playing, I'll put it, that I thought were good games, but just because there's certain genres I just simply don't enjoy, and I'm fairly vocal about them. So like pixel graphic games or story games, I just don't like. Puzzle games, not my jam. Especially given that, like, for a lot of story games, and not so much this one, because this one is more open world, but like some story games, it's like once you play once, you're done. There's not a lot of replayability. And if you've already played it, there's almost no interest in watching someone else play it for the first time, in my opinion. So those games are just bad for stream, or for me at least. Other streamers might be able to make it happen. Maybe other streamers are like more entertaining or whatever. But games like I'll just throw out it for instance, like Assassin's Creed, and they just don't fit my channel. Because once you've played Assassin's Creed and know the story and seen all the secrets and stuff, it's like cool, but now I'm done. Yeah, like Kerbal 2. Yeah, that's a good example. I was very vocal when Kerbal 2 came out that I thought it was crap. It was voted that I play it like right at release, and I grumbled every second of it. In a fun way. It wasn't just me like bitching and moaning. But it was very, very bad at release. It still is pretty bad. But at release it was surprisingly unplayable. And I pulled no punches, I'll put it that way. It's drizzling, which means there's water in the water collector. So let's go ahead and make our first fine stew. So for that I need mushrooms, garlic, a piece of meat, and a, which I think I just put all my meat that I had in the smoker, and a mushroom. So here's the garlic. And mushroom. So now all I need in this thing is meat. Any piece of meat will do. I saw some red hostile things down this way. It was probably wolves. So let's go investigate. Oh, wasn't Fine Stew cooking locked behind cooking 6? I don't think so. I could be wrong. What are you? You are... Oh, bandits. Never mind. I'm not going to be able to cook you. We're not cannibals. That we know of. But there's a stag. My archery is still level 1. Oh, it saw me. Did it? No. It's about to see me. Stand very still. Oh! Oh, speaking of cannibals. Yeah, that cairn is looking mighty grim. Yep. Well, for the stew, it can just be any meat. It doesn't need to be stag meat. So if I find bunnies or anything, that will do too. So let's wander around and try to make a stew, and then I'll get back to making the forager and the logger. There's a stag, but it's running straight at those bandits. The animals will interact with humans as well. So like wolves and boars will attack bandits, and stags will run from bandits and brigands. So where there's a lot of bandits and brigands, you'll probably not find a lot of stationary stags, because they'll be spooked and running. Lonnie Lemur and Makomi, thank you for the sub. And Swagdelic and Machump, or McHump for the bits. The other thing I could look to do is to fight wolves and boars, because they won't run, and they're kind of easier to kill as a result. Oh, there's a stag nearby. The eye icon tells me, but I don't see it. It reminds me of like playing, I think it was that one and it ran. Morrowind or Skyrim or whatever, where like you try to camp and it's like enemies nearby and you're like, wait, where? Did I miss a giant that's about to smush me, or a dragon that's about to swoop? Also, oh, there's a bunny. I'm hungry, so I'm probably not going to hit a bunny with my low-level archery skill. I should just pick a wild mushroom and pop it in my mouth. Hey, Dave. Thanks for all the gifted subs. The NPC hunters that you employ in a hunter's camp are very good at hunting efficiently. The player is not. So if you want to source a lot of meat, like, just make a hunter's camp, and it's going to be 1,000,000 times easier to get as much wolf, boar, stag, bird, and bunny meat as you want. Those are the 5 things you can hunt: wolves, stags, boars, bunnies, and crows, birds. Now, speaking of which, yeah, got it. One, it bounces. Feathers are required to make higher level arrows. So when you want to manufacture like a lot of bronze or iron arrows, or some armors too. Some of the nicer low tier armors require feathers. Getting a hunter's camp where they hunt birds is nice. Well, here's my stew. All right, let's get back to camp and get back on it. I also need to kill one more wolf for the elder. So once I have the camps set up, maybe I'll go do that, because it's not too hard to kill a wolf. I hope Yoda didn't hear me say that. You'd be sad. I have enough for actually 2 stews. So yeah, I'll make 2 stews. So 2 garlic, 2 mushroom, 1 more water. And now that it's raining, these water collectors, they max out at 20 water. But yeah, they'll start collecting water. So here's fine stew number 1. And as you can see, I have not been near this smoker for a long time. And the meat that I had put on the smoker did not get burned. The smoker's very... are not very fussy about how long you can leave things on it. Which is very nice. Hey, bud. Peanut for you. So the fine stews, until much later on, the fine stews are kind of the nicest food that you can cook. And the real benefit to them is you're satiated for 8 hours, which is kind of a long time, versus like 2 to 4 hours of a lot of the other foods, so you don't have to eat it very often. You can use any size of meat, large, medium, or normal, for it. It's not fussy. And then garlic and mushrooms can be easily foraged, and water comes from the wells, so it's very easy to do, to have a lot of stews, high amount of stews, which is why it's most players go to, I would say. Later on, you get access to much nicer foods, but that's like tier 3. So I'll show you. Here's tier 2. At tier 2, you gain taverns. And tier 3s, you gain inns, which is where the nicer foods are locked behind. And then you also gain... where is it? Apiary for honey, which is used in baking. Primarily for like honey cakes and the like, and windmills. So interestingly, when you start farming, you aren't farming for wheat. You're mostly farming like potatoes and stuff like that, and hemp and, you know, flax and things like that. Farming for and in fact, I'm gonna probably I got 2 fine stews. Because of my cooking skill. Well, no. Never mind. There we go. So, I'm setting up a second fine stew. And I can give Lubomir the other fine stew that I cooked up. So, we have the logging camp. Trapper camp. I think I'd like to get the travel sign, which means I need to get the stockpile. But the stockpile stores a lot more than these camp chests, so they'd be nice to get to. Draco, thank you for this sub. For the resub. 5 stone, 5 logs. Oops, I grabbed wood. And then the foraging camp has all the materials it needs, but the logging camp still requires logs. So I'll source all the logs needed. So it's 5 plus 4. Probably easiest if I cut down tall trees then. Another good thing to research would be bags, just so that my storage amount goes up a little bit. Makes transporting high volume of materials a little bit less of a burden. Because unlike Skyrim, where I get Lydia to follow me around and carry all my stuff... Actually, no, that's not true. Technically, you can have your follower or your villagers be companions and to use their inventories and just, like, fill them full of the garbage that you need to transport. I just don't do that because, for whatever reason, whether it's a bug or intended in game mechanics, when you fast travel with villager travel signs, your companions don't follow you. And the ramification of that is you can teleport around the map real fast. Your followers can't. Meaning, if you rely on your companions to do hauling for you, you can't, like, teleport out to a mining camp, grab a whole bunch of iron, stick it in your companions, and teleport back. And, if I'm not mistaken, the tooltip for travel signs says that your companions follow you, but, like, they don't. Whether it's intended or not. I'm not sure. So, I typically do all the long range portering myself, because the player's just faster at it. One other advantage of stews is, like, you can't burn them, so once they're done, they just sit there, which is nice. So you can't mess them up. So 4 more logs for the stockpile. Got it. So the cooking that requires 6 for cooking, I think is like I could be mistaken, but it might be the level of cooking required for villagers to do it, but not for you, the player. Sometimes there's a disparity between the two. So if I wanted villagers to make fine stews automatically, they're going to require a certain level of cooking that isn't required for me. The forager camp is done, but it has no tasks in the queue. So I can either walk up to the forager camp manually or just find it here. So it's red because it has no tasks, and I can just say, hey, get sage until we have 20, get flax until we have 20. I want more flax than I want sage, so it's priority 5. Get berries until we have 20. I'm just picking 20. Get mushrooms until we have 20. And it's the most important, so I'll put that as 4. There isn't wheat nearby. I could also do stone, wood, river reeds, hemp. I'll do hemp as well, and do that until we have 20 as well. And I'm just setting this up like roughly the priorities I find that they are. I most want mushrooms, then flax and hemp. And I'm not going to do any of the other resources. So I can queue these up, but if they're not nearby, the foraging camp only searches like a local area. And also consider danger. So if I did do river reeds, Lubomir might try to go get them, but that doesn't necessarily mean he survives the trek. Because unless the foraging camp is next to the river reeds, he will then travel for them, and he might run into trouble doing that. So use some logic when queuing up tasks, because if it's like guarded in a super dangerous area by bandits, your villagers aren't going to... Your villagers will run from danger, but I've had in a few cases where the villagers wander into somewhere dangerous and end up having danger on both sides of them, and they kind of get soft-locked, where like they don't know where to go, so they just stand there, frozen, because there's danger all around them. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So when queuing up the task, make sure that it's not ridiculous for your villagers to get to. So we're getting stockpiles so that I can get travel signs, because travel signs are really nice. But here's the forager camp, and you can manage it from here. And then the logging camp right over there. The logging camp does require an axe, though. So, oh, and my archery just hit level 2, so that means I finished the book that I was reading. So in this logging camp, I'll just stick my axe in for now. And I can queue up wood, so we'll say get wood until 20 as priority 4, and logs until, let's say, 5 at priority 5. My next task that I'm going to give myself is recruit one more villager. and build a stockpile and travel sign. So he's done with stockpile. So I will put a stockpile maybe here, sort of equidistant between the lumber camp and the forager, but close to my base, which requires 5 flax, 5 logs, 10 wood. Most of that will have to be collected by me. I could wait for Lubomir to get it, but he's not super fast at this stuff, and I'd rather have him researching, because I can't research, only he can. So here's some other things that he can research. Warhammers, rondels, woodcutter axe. The woodcutter axe is a back slot, and it is an axe tier 1, so it doesn't allow you to cut hardwoods. So what I'm trying to say is it's not better, because it costs bronze than the simple axes that you have. So just tell your dudes to make simple axes. Pitchforks and carpenter hammers. Carpenter's hammers allow you to construct tier 2 buildings. You can't... Tier 1 buildings, you can just kind of like put sticks and flax by hand. Tier 2 buildings require you to like use a hammer to hammer it slowly and manually. And it requires a carpenter's hammer. And all the villagers that will build your stuff will also require carpenter's hammers. So it's something that you will want a lot of. Meaning that it's something that I should research at some point. Interestingly, they require bronze to research, but they don't require, if I recall correctly, bronze to make. They just require like wood and rope to make. So the research cost is a little steep initially, but the manufacturing cost is pretty cheap. But what I really wanted here was the travel sign, so that we can fast travel, or I can fast travel. So that's 8 wood, 3 cord. 1, 2. The reason I'm not organizing the boxes just yet is this is not a permanent base. This is just like my initial setup of a base until I get tier 2. I did, however, hand my axe off in the lumber camp. I'm gonna want that back. Sorry. Sorry, Lubomir, get your own. Oh, I'll be making one. I just need one to make one easily. And maybe once I have an axe in the lumber camp, I'll go recruit. Because having 2 villagers help with foraging and timber cutting and researching is going to be better than 1. And I got Lubomir kind of for free. He was like a freebie through quest lines, but there are very few other freebies that you'll get. I think in total, maybe like 3 more other than Lubomir that you'll just happen upon, you'll happen upon through like quest lines and story and stuff. All the others that you get, you have to do somewhat intentionally by finding them, talking to them, looking at the requirements, and then spending renown to recruit them. And truth be told, I might not have the renown for the recruits that I would want to add. So I want to go scout because it's not. This is procedurally generated. The towns in the map are static, but the villagers, most of the villagers are procedurally generated. So Amelie that I talked to, Amelie Feltior or Elder, what's his name? Whatever the Elder Dobrin are static NPCs. But most of the villagers over there to recruit are procedurally generated and random. So I can't use the experience I have from playing before to know which villagers are going to be best. I just have to talk to them, figure out their requirements, and find my favorites. What was I doing? I was making an axe for the camp. I lost track of that. Which means I need stone. I think the mushroom patch is the best for stone. Or the closest stone that I know of. But Lubomir, I think, is working for the... Oh, no, he's delivering flax to the stockpile. And I'll rebait the trap. Just because I'm standing right here next to the mushrooms, making it easy to do. But I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of that, because traps suck. Maybe at some point they'll, like, patch it and make them worth something, but that's not true yet, as far as I know. Thank you for tuning in to Bellwright, which originally streamed live on Twitch May 25th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, viewers that turned out to the Marathon's live stream, and also viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Bellwrights.